What's up, Culture Warriors? I'm here to fill you in on some real-world political violence that erupted in the tabletop gaming world, and more importantly, why you need to take notice and you need to take action on this. One of the faults of conservatives and free speech advocates in general is that we tend to care less and pay less attention when things happen outside of our niche. Video gamers pay less attention to comics, comics guys pay less attention when something happens in tabletop gaming. Tabletop gaming doesn't pay attention when SJWs or the regressive left take over science fiction. Maybe it's because we're all so damn busy, but if we want to win the culture war, it needs to stop. Our enemies can't win on ideas and debate. They only win by way of shutting us up and shutting us down, like Facebook, Apple, and YouTube shutting down InfoWars yesterday, or by keeping us separated. It's the age-old concept of together we stand, divided we fall. How do you think D-Day would have gone if there was no coordination and no communication between the efforts on Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword beaches? It would have completely collapsed. And it came close to that as it was. That is what we are facing if we, as the regressive left likes to say it, stay in our own lane. In fact, we all have to do the opposite of what they say and cross lanes frequently. This is why it's extremely important for us to pay attention to the story that developed over the weekend at the tabletop gaming convention Gen-Con in Indianapolis, Indiana. Now, Gen-Con bills itself as the largest tabletop gaming convention in North America by both attendance and number of events. It features traditional pen and paper, board and card games, including role-playing games, miniatures war games, live-action role-playing games, collectible card games, and strategy games. It has some serious street cred as well. It was founded by the one and only Gary Gygax, who just so happened to invent this thing called Dungeons and Dragons. Gen-Con 2018 just happened this past weekend, but unfortunately it wasn't all about gaming and friendship. A prominent YouTuber and free speech advocate named Jeremy Hambly, who runs two big channels, Unsleeved Media and The Quartering, was a victim of assault and battery at Gen-Con. Now, Jeremy is a rightly contentious guy in the Magic the Gathering community. He has fought a war against the SJW and regressive left takeover in favor of free speech so similar to Comicsgate and Gamergate it was dubbed Magicgate. He also exposed pedophiles and other scum amongst the Magic the Gathering judge community. You'd think they'd love him, but instead they hate him and call him a Nazi. Does that sound familiar to anyone? According to what we know about this assault so far from Jeremy himself and also multiple eyewitnesses, a man walked up to him, confirmed his identity, and started punching him in the head. When Jeremy got away from him and into a bar, the man punched the window of the bar hard enough to break it. Based on what we know, this was a premeditated attack. To make matters worse, the man was wearing his Gen-Con 4-day badge when he assaulted Jeremy, and if allegations about his identity are correct, this guy is actually a vendor. In short, he has a much tighter relationship with Gen-Con than any normal attendee. Now, going back to what I said about staying in your own lane, many of you might not care too much about this incident. You may think it has nothing to do with you because you aren't into tabletop gaming. But if you are a culture warrior and engaged in the culture war, this incident has everything to do with you. Speaking especially about the Comicsgate community and movement, many of you might not have the perspective to recognize that this isn't a fresh incident or a first-time thing. It is a continuing trend of violence against conservatives and those who are politically center-right that is only expanding. After all, Jeremy himself isn't an outspoken conservative, and certainly not a member of the alt-right, which the left is calling him today. Conservatives witnessed a wide range of politically motivated violence during the 2016 election season. A woman spit on and pelted with eggs outside a Trump rally, a teenager running for his life after he was chased by immigrants after another Trump rally, and who can forget when an Antifa thug smashed the back of a man's head with a bike lock for the crime of supporting Donald Trump, loving America, and demanding free speech. That is the trend that this attack is part of. Some of you still may think this doesn't matter, so I'll make it even clearer for you. This type of political violence will expand to comic conventions and any other sort of convention that you hold dear. To the SJWs and the regressive left, holding any sort of opinion they don't like or supporting free speech is so terrible that if you believe as we do, you shouldn't feel safe at conventions. Hell, they go even farther than that. They don't want us to feel safe outside of our homes. You can't even eat out at a local private restaurant, as we saw with Sarah Sanders and yesterday morning with Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk. And Gen-Con has done nothing to dispel the SJW's notion that this is how the world should work. Gen-Con did not put out any sort of statement condemning the violence. They did not take any action against the alleged attacker, despite the fact that he was wearing his badge when he attacked Jeremy. His Gen-Con badge might as well have been a sign hanging around his neck which read, "This punch is courtesy of Gen-Con." And it's bad enough that he was a vendor having a business relationship with Gen-Con. The social media account of the event went so far as to tweet out a promotional offer from his booth. To the culture warriors on the regressive left and the social justice warriors we fight against, this was a flashing neon sign saying, "Good job, guys. Punch that Obama voting Nazi for us." It was also a flashing neon sign to the SJW and regressive left that will attend future comic conventions, video game conventions, and sci-fi conventions. They will look at Gen-Con and say, hey, it was okay at Gen-Con to commit assault and battery on those we disagree with. It'll be okay here too. The people I work with on the Jawbreakers team and Trump Space Force team will be prime targets. So will anyone in the Comicsgate movement or wearing a MAGA hat or buying Jawbreakers or Trump Space Force from us. And an example of the slippery slope in action, pretty soon you'll get punched if you didn't cheer the punchings loud enough. Within a year, you'll see empty conventions, but the SJWs won't care. Maybe that's been their goal from the start. As Michael Caine said in The Dark Knight, some men just want to watch the world burn. It's clear at this point that the dark agenda SJWs and the regressive left have in mind for America as we know it is to watch her burn. This attack affects all of us, every single fandom, every single community. We collectively need to keep the heat up. That can take multiple forms, like urging the alternative media to cover the story or financially supporting Jeremy's mission to sue his attacker in civil court. Most of all, let's push conventions to do what the cowards and enablers at Gen-Con wouldn't do. Put out a statement against political violence in the strongest of terms. Let the SJWs know it is unacceptable and will result in a lifetime ban from any convention. Set up clear rules that prohibit discrimination and violence against conservatives or anyone who is politically center-right. They have time to set aside safe spaces and gender-inclusive bathrooms. I think they can make time to set up rules about punching people. Gen-Con acted like a bunch of wimps, hiding behind the incident not being inside the convention hall. In fact, the entire premeditated attack couldn't be more tied to the convention and will permanently stain its reputation. It's up to us, culture warriors, to stop this political violence dead in its tracks before it escalates further. And believe me, it will if action isn't taken by us to demand our own safety by those who run these conventions. Tell me what you think in the comments below. What convention will you take action on today so this never happens again? Let me know. Also be sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell for notification, and share this video far and wide. Based on what all major platforms did to InfoWars yesterday, you know they will work against the spread of this video and more full spectrum culture videos from yours truly. And don't forget to check out the Indigogo campaign for Trump Space Force. We are in the final weeks of the campaign, so make sure and join our ranks today by contributing and supporting original content from artists who love and cherish America and want to make her even more great than she already is. We appreciate it. Anyway, stay safe out there. Keep your situational awareness at DEF CON 2, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Thanks.